Sometimes distance doesn't mean they're gone. It just means life is slowly teaching them what they lost. My friends, if you really pay attention, there's always a moment where their "I don't care" act starts to crack. A tiny shift, a small sign, a little glitch in the matrix that tells you their distance is not growing. It's ending. They're not as far gone as they pretend to be. And if you notice this, it's often the first quiet proof that they're coming back. Before we go deep, do me a quick favor, folks. If you've ever been confused by someone's mixed signals, if you've ever felt that weird tension where they're distant but still watching you from the shadows, hit that like button, press subscribe, and turn on the bell. It costs nothing, but it tells the algorithm, hey, more people need this truth. Hey folks, imagine this. You're at an airport watching planes take off. One plane takes off and you think, that's it, it's gone forever. But then, hours later, you look up and see the same airline landing again. It didn't disappear from the world, it just went through its own route, its own chaos, and then circled back to the same ground. That's how people are. They take off in pride, in ego, in fear, telling themselves they need space. But very often, life has a funny way of circling them right back to the runway they left. You. Here's the first lie the world tells you. If they're distant, it means they don't care. That's not always true, my friends. Sometimes distance is not a sign of no feelings. It's a sign of feelings they don't know how to handle. As one quote says, some people don't walk away because they feel nothing. They walk away because they're terrified of how much they feel. You know how Wi-Fi acts like it's gone, but then suddenly reconnects just when you're about to throw your phone? People are like that emotionally. They pull away to fix themselves, to protect their pride, to prove they're strong and independent. But the heart doesn't follow those rules. The heart keeps a quiet record of who felt like home. And here's the truth most folks never hear. Their distance has phases. At first it feels like freedom to them, then it feels like noise. Then slowly it starts to feel like a mistake. You don't see all of this, but you feel the energy shifting. Suddenly they watch your stories a little more. They like something they don't need to. They send that, "Hey, how have you been?" text that doesn't match the way they left. That's not random. That's ego slowly losing its grip. We're going to break this down together. We'll talk about what to notice, what it really means when their coldness softens, and how to stay calm, strong, and stoic while it happens. Because this isn't about begging them to come back. This is about understanding that sometimes distance is not the end of the story. It's just the chapter where you grow and they wake up. And don't worry, we'll keep it real, we'll keep it honest. And maybe we'll even laugh a little at how dramatic humans can be. Because let's be honest, we've all refreshed someone's profile by accident, right? Stay with me, my friends. This is going to open your eyes, calm your heart, and give you the kind of clarity most people never get. And before we move on, I want you to claim your power in the comments. Type this affirmation, "I choose my peace." Write it down below, hit the like button, press subscribe, and let's walk through this journey together. Number 1, when their distance stops, feeling like freedom, and starts feeling heavy. Some people don't realize how much you meant to them until the silence they chose starts echoing louder than your voice ever did. My friends, let's hit this straight on. When someone first pulls away from you, they sell themselves a beautiful lie. The lie is simple. Now I'm free. Free from responsibility, free from effort, free from feelings. At the beginning, their distance feels like a victory to them. They post, they smile, they act light and unbothered, as if cutting you off was the same as cutting off their emotional weight. But real life doesn't work like that for long. Sooner or later, what looked like freedom starts to feel like a heavy backpack they forgot they're still carrying. Imagine someone moving out of a house because they're tired of fixing small things. They slam the door, throw the key away in their mind and say, "Good, I'm done." At first, the hotel feels exciting. Room service, new bed, no responsibilities. But after a while, they notice something. The hotel isn't home. The walls are empty. The furniture isn't chosen by them. There's no history in the rooms. That's what their distance becomes. It looks like a fresh start, but it begins to feel like living in a space with no soul. And whether they admit it or not, you were the soul in their story. In their mind, a lot of questions start creeping in that they don't want to talk about. Why doesn't this feel as good as I thought it would? Why do I feel restless, even though I got what I wanted? If I'm so free, why does this freedom feel so shallow? They try to push those questions away because the answer to them all is uncomfortable. They didn't walk away from drama. They walked away from depth. That's the part their ego doesn't want to face. As the quote goes, you don't miss a person at first, you miss the peace they brought into your chaos. At the start, they might laugh more, go out more, fill their days with noise. But the more they run, the more the silence chases them at night. Think of it like turning down the music after a party. While the speakers are blasting, anything can feel fun: fake friendships, forced conversations, shallow attention. But when the music goes off and everybody leaves, that's when they hear the hum of their own thoughts. That hum starts to say things like, "You had something real, and you walked away from it." That's the moment when their distance stops being a fun performance and starts being a weight they can't ignore. They begin to feel a tension inside. On one side, there's the story they told themselves and everyone around them. "I had to leave. I'm better on my own. I wasn't that invested anyway." On the other side, there's the feeling they can't shake. "Why do I still think about them when I'm supposed to be moving on?" That gap between the story and the feeling is where the heaviness grows. And the bigger that gap becomes, the harder it is for them to stay comfortable in their distance. Fear plays a huge role here, folks. They're afraid to admit that maybe they misjudged you. They're afraid that if they confess, "I miss you," you'll have already moved on. They're afraid of looking weak, especially if they acted strong when they left. So instead of dealing with that fear in a healthy way, they choose distractions. They tell themselves, "If I just stay busy enough, I won't feel it." But feelings don't disappear because you turned the volume up on your life. Feelings wait. They sit quietly in the corner like uninvited guests, and they always find a way to re-enter the conversation. Here's the lie they believed: if I create distance, the feelings will die. That sounds logical, doesn't it? Less contact, less connection, less emotion. But the truth is the opposite when the bond was deep. Distance doesn't always kill feelings. Sometimes it concentrates them. It strips away the drama, the routine, the everyday noise, and leaves only the core. And the core is this: they felt safe with you in a way they didn't fully understand until that safety was gone. As someone once said, you rarely know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory that won't leave you alone. Why is this stage so difficult for them? Because it forces them to face themselves. When they were with you, they could blame you for how they felt. They're too much, they're too emotional, they're too demanding. Now, in the distance, the same emotional chaos shows up. But you're not there to blame. The loneliness, the anxiety, the unsteady feeling, that's all them now. The mirror is clean, and they don't like everything they see in it. That's not your job to fix anymore. That's their work. Deep down, they start to realize something important. Walking away from you didn't fix their patterns. It just removed the one person who gently called those patterns out. That realization is heavy. It sits in their chest when they're alone, when their phone is quiet, when they scroll and feel nothing real from anyone else. That's when they look back, not just at you, but at who they were when they were with you. They notice that maybe, just maybe, they were a better version of themselves in your presence, more grounded, more honest, more human. My friends, the point here isn't to glorify them or to say, "Don't worry, they secretly suffer." The point is to show you that their distance is not always this powerful, clean, confident thing it appears to be on the surface. Often it is held together by fear and fear and pride get very, very heavy over time. Their so-called freedom grows sharp edges. What looked like a wide-open road starts to feel like walking in circles. This is where you must rise from your own fear too. The fear that whispers, "If they're not here, I must not matter." The fear that says, "Their silence means I'm forgotten." You have to break that lie at its root. You are not measured by someone else's temporary confusion. The fact that they need distance to figure themselves out does not make you less valuable. If anything, it exposes how unprepared they were to handle someone of your emotional depth. Yes, it's hard. Yes, your mind will ask painful questions. Are they really fine without me? Did I mean nothing? But remember, what you see online, what you hear from mutual friends, what they pretend, it's all filtered. You're seeing the performance, not the weight behind the curtain. As their distance turns heavier for them, your job is not to go chase and lighten it. Your job is to let them carry what they chose, while you carry yourself into a stronger version of you. So here's your reminder for this phase. While their freedom starts to feel like a burden, your silence can start to feel like a blessing. You're not stuck. You're being repositioned. You're not abandoned. You're being protected from a version of them that wasn't ready to honor you properly. Let life teach them what it needs to teach, while you learn to stand taller in your own lane. I want you to mark this truth in your heart and in the comments. Type this affirmation: "My worth is not defined by their distance." Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that you understand what's really happening beneath the surface. Because in the next part, we're going to go even deeper into the invisible shift inside their ego, the moment when the silence they created stops feeling safe and starts exposing everything they tried to hide. Stay with me. Number 2, the first invisible shift. Their ego isn't comfortable in the silence anymore. Silence looks like power to the ego until it starts echoing with truths it can't control. My friends, there comes a point where the very silence they chose starts turning against them. At first, the quiet feels like their shield. No calls, no texts, no explanations. They convince themselves that staying distant makes them strong, mysterious, untouchable. But slowly, almost secretly, that same silence becomes a mirror, and what it reflects back isn't as pretty as the story they told themselves. Picture someone standing in front of a funhouse mirror. At the start, they laugh because everything looks distorted. Their head is huge, their body is tiny, nothing is real. That's how their ego treats the first part of the distance. It twists reality. I didn't care that much anyway. They were too much. I needed this. The mirror is lying, and they enjoy the lie. But then the mirror changes. The distortion fades. One day they look again and see something closer to the truth. A tired face, a restless mind, a heart that didn't actually move on, just moved away. That's when the silence stops being entertainment and starts becoming exposure. Inside their head, questions begin to walk around without permission. Why am I still thinking about them? Why does their name still sting when someone mentions it? If I'm so fine, why does this emptiness feel so loud? They won't say this out loud, not to their friends, not even to themselves in clear words. but their behavior starts to shift. The distance they once wore like armor begins to feel like a tight shirt that doesn't fit anymore. It itches, it squeezes, it doesn't let them breathe the way they thought it would. Remember this quote: "The ego loves silence when it believes it's in control. It hates it when the truth starts talking back." At the beginning, they used silence as a weapon, a way to punish, to test, to appear above their emotions. But the thing about silence is, it has no loyalty to the ego. Silence is loyal to truth. And in that quiet, all the things they ran from start knocking on the door, the memories, the good moments, the times you showed up when no one else did, the way they felt safe with you, even if they never said it out loud. Fear starts to show up here too, folks. They're scared of what this new awareness might mean. Scared that they misjudged you. Scared that they weren't as in control as they wanted to believe. Scared that if they ever admit, "I miss them," they'll have to admit they were wrong. And for someone whose identity is built on always being right, that's terrifying. So they do what scared people do. They hide behind routines. They work more hours. They scroll more. They stay out later. They fill every silence with noise. But there's always that one moment they can't escape, when the phone is finally down and the room is finally dark. That's when silence becomes loud. They remember the tone of your voice when you were patient with them. They remember your laugh, the way you calmed them down, the way your presence made life feel less scattered. They remember the one argument they mishandled, the last message they ignored, the chance they had to be honest and instead chose pride. These aren't dramatic movie scenes. They are small flashes, replayed in the ordinary corners of their day. Walking to the kitchen, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. And every time one of those flashes hits, the silence they chose feels a little less safe. Here's the lie they're trying to hold on to in this phase. If I ignore it long enough, it will go away. But emotion doesn't work like an app you can uninstall. It works like a seed. Even if you bury it, it still finds a way to grow roots. And the more they try to push it down, the more pressure builds inside. On the outside, they may still look calm. On the inside, hairline cracks are forming. As another quote says, "The strongest walls don't fall in a thunderstorm. They fall from the water that seeps in quietly over time." Why is this so hard for you to see from where you are? Because all of this is happening internally. You're not watching the conversation happening in their mind. You only see the surface, the silence, the lack of effort, the appearance of being fine. That's why your brain plays tricks on you. It tells you, "They don't think about me at all. I was nothing. I imagined everything." But that's your fear talking, not the full truth. Just like they're living in a story created by their ego, you risk living in a story created by your pain. Both stories are incomplete. The reality is more complicated. They are not as unaffected as they pretend to be, and you are not as worthless as your mind tries to claim in your lowest moments. Their silence is not proof of your lack of value. It is proof of their lack of maturity. Their ego is uncomfortable in the quiet now because the quiet is finally honest. It no longer supports the lie that they didn't care. It holds up a mirror to the fact that they did care and still do, but didn't know how to stand in that truth without feeling exposed. This is where you must start rising above your own old patterns as well. The old you might have chased, might have begged for clarity, might have tried to break their silence with long messages and emotional confessions. But this new you, the one shaped by Stoicism and self-respect, understands something different. You don't interrupt a person's lesson. You don't rescue them from their own reflection. You let the silence do what you tried to do with your words, wake them up. Yes, it hurts not to know exactly what's happening on their side. Yes, it's scary to sit in your own silence when all you want is reassurance. But this is where your power is built. Every day you choose not to break your own peace just to soothe their ego. You grow. Every time you resist the urge to send that "I just want to talk" message, you are teaching yourself that your emotional stability does not belong in their hands anymore. So, when their ego starts feeling uncomfortable in the silence, remember, that discomfort is a sign that the illusion is cracking. For them, it feels like pressure. For you, it can be the beginning of freedom. You are not the one shaking anymore. They are. You are not the one running from your feelings. You're facing them. That is a powerful shift, whether you can see their side of it or not. I want you to honor that shift right now. Take a breath, put your hand on your chest, and remind yourself of this truth. Then go to the comments and write this affirmation. Silence reveals the truth, not my worth. Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that you understand what's really unfolding beneath the surface. Because next, we're going to peel back another layer and talk about what happens when they secretly start orbiting you again, even while pretending nothing has changed. Stay with me. Number 3, subtle cracks in their composure, how they secretly start orbiting you again. People don't just move on, my friends. They circle back in thoughts long before they ever circle back in messages. There comes a point where their "I'm fine without you" show starts to shake, even if their face never changes. On the outside, they still look composed, distant, cool, but inside, tiny cracks begin to form in the mask they've been holding up for too long. The silence that once felt like a stage for their ego now feels like a spotlight that won't switch off. And little by little, they start doing something they promised themselves they wouldn't do. They quietly orbit you again. Imagine a planet that broke out of your orbit, flying off into space like it finally escaped your gravity. At first, it feels like victory to that planet. I'm free, I'm flying, I'm gone. But the universe has rules. Gravity doesn't stop existing just because someone got excited. Slowly, almost invisibly, that same planet starts to curve. It doesn't crash back immediately. It doesn't make a dramatic return. It just bends. And one day, it realizes it's circling the same star it thought it left behind. That star is you. This is where their behavior becomes confusing if you don't understand what's really happening. They won't send a long apology. They won't write, "Hey, I realized I messed up." Their ego isn't ready for that yet. What they will do is start sending signals that look tiny on the surface but are huge underneath. They view your story every time you post. They like something that doesn't need to be liked. They watch your page but don't follow. They accidentally react to a post and then act like it was nothing. And so you start to wonder, why are they watching me if they're over me? Why did they like that old photo? Why do they pop up, disappear, then pop up again? Your brain pulls you in every direction. Part of you wants to believe it means nothing. Another part of you feels that energy shift in your chest. You can feel it, even if you can't explain it. And here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Very often, your intuition is right. They are orbiting you again, not with honesty yet, with caution, with fear, with ego still sitting in the driver's seat. There's a quote that fits this moment perfectly. The ones who claim they don't care are often the ones who check the most in secret. They want to know if you've moved on. They want to know if someone else has your attention. They want to know if that access they once had to your heart is still there like an open door, or if you finally locked it. Their pride doesn't let them walk up and knock yet. So they peek through the window instead. Scrolls, views, quiet stalking. That's them at the window. Why do they do it this way? Because they're scared. scared that you'll reject them, scared you'll ignore them the way they ignored you, scared that you'll prove what they secretly fear, that they lost something they will not easily replace. So instead of entering the conversation like an adult, they move like a shadow around your life, trying to feel your energy without having to feel their own accountability. It's childish, but it's real. A lot of grown bodies are still carrying teenage emotional habits. This is where the lies in your own mind start getting loud too. If they're watching, maybe I should reach out. Maybe this is a sign I'm supposed to do something. Maybe their view means they're sorry. My friends, breathe. Notice how quickly your mind wants to turn crumbs into closure. Notice how fast your old habit of chasing wants to wake up. That's why this stage is dangerous if you're not grounded. Their subtle orbit can pull you back into old patterns if you turn every glance into a grand gesture in your head. Here's the lie we break right now. Their quiet attention does not equal emotional responsibility. Them watching you doesn't mean they're ready to show up for you. It simply means something in them is unsettled. That's about them, not about your job. Yes, their mask is cracking. Yes, their ego is uncomfortable. Yes, they are drawn back into your orbit. But until their actions become clear, consistent and honest, you are not required to interpret their curiosity as commitment. Think of it like someone standing outside a gym, looking through the window. They bought the shoes. They talk about getting in shape. They tell everyone, yeah, I've been thinking about working out. But until they actually step in, sign up, and put in the work, it doesn't matter how long they stare through the glass. They're not training, they're just thinking. That's exactly what this orbiting is. Emotional window shopping. And this, my friends, is where Stoicism becomes your best ally. Because the old version of you might have reacted immediately. You would have posted something to get their attention. You would have messaged them first. You would have tried to help them be honest by breaking the ice for them. But this new you, the one you're becoming, understands a powerful truth. If someone wants to come back into your life, it is not your job to drag them through the door. It is their job to walk in with intention. So what do you do while they orbit? You observe, not obsess. You acknowledge what's happening, but you don't build your day, your mood, or your worth around it. You see their name in your views, and instead of spinning stories, you think, interesting, and go back to your life. You notice the like on an old picture and think, of course they're looking back. I'm unforgettable. And then you continue your healing. You don't shrink your light to make it easier for them to approach. You keep growing, keep glowing. Let them adjust to your new altitude or stay on the ground. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. Because here's the beautiful twist. The more you stay calm in their orbit, the more obvious it becomes to them that something has changed. The old you would have rushed in, answered instantly, fed their ego. The new you is steady, mindful, and harder to reach emotionally. That difference creates pressure on their side. It starts to push them toward a choice, either step forward honestly or step aside completely. No more half in, half out. No more enjoying your energy without giving anything back. I want you to honor your growth in this phase. You are not crazy for feeling their energy. You are not weak for noticing their orbit. But you are powerful enough not to let it control you. Go to the comments right now and write this affirmation: I don't chase orbiters. Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that you are done running after people who only move in circles. Because next, we're going to talk about what happens when life itself starts reminding them of you. Those random triggers, patterns, and so-called coincidences that push them even closer to facing what they've been avoiding. Stay with me. Number 4. When life keeps reminding them of you. Triggers, patterns, and coincidences. Life has a cruel sense of timing. It doesn't remind you of what you lost when you're ready. It reminds you when you're finally out of excuses. My friends, there comes a phase where it's not just their mind that pulls them back to you, it's their entire environment. They can run from your messages, your photos, your name on their screen. But they can't run from the way life keeps dropping you right in front of them like a quiet reminder they didn't ask for. This is when the universe, or whatever you want to call it, starts working as a mirror. And in that mirror, they see you everywhere. Picture this. They're driving one evening, feeling smug and relaxed, thinking they've finally cleared you out of their head. Then a song comes on. Not just any song. The song. The one you both laughed at. The one that was playing the night you had a deep conversation in the car. Suddenly their chest tightens. Their hand hovers over the skip button. Some days they skip it. Other days they let it play and feel that sting. That's not nostalgia for music. That's memory refusing to stay buried. Or imagine them walking past a cafe where you once sat together. To anyone else, it's just another place. To them, it's a snapshot. There you are again, in their imagination, laughing across from them, stirring your drink, saying something they didn't realize would stay with them. They look away, they scroll, they pretend it's nothing. But your shadow sits down with them at that table and doesn't leave. This is where the patterns start to form. They see your name randomly. They meet someone with your laugh. They hear a phrase you always used to say. These things used to slide past their mind unnoticed. Now they land. They stick. They linger. And they start asking themselves questions they don't want to say out loud. Why am I seeing them everywhere? Why does everything remind me of them? Didn't I move on? Here's the truth, folks. These coincidences wouldn't feel so loud if there wasn't something inside them still unresolved. When you don't care, reminders don't sting. They pass like background noise. But when you do care, even a small echo can feel like thunder. As the quote goes, the heart doesn't replay what it doesn't value. It only obsesses over what it never fully faced. They'll tell themselves it's just their brain playing tricks. That's how ego protects itself. It's just a song. It's just a place. It's just a memory. But deep down, something else is happening. Life is showing them the truth they avoided. You weren't just a chapter. You were a turning point. You were the calm in their chaos, the anchor during their storms, the one person who understood their language without them having to translate every word. This phase is hard for them because it highlights the gap between what they say and what they feel. They said they were done. They said they didn't care. They said they needed space. But every time your presence shows up in their reality without your effort, they lose a little bit of that narrative. It's like trying to convince yourself you're not hungry while standing in a kitchen that smells like your favorite meal. You can say, "I'm fine," all you want. Your body knows better. Their heart knows better too. And here's where your fear kicks in on your side. You start thinking, if life is reminding them of me, maybe I'm meant to reach out. Maybe I'm supposed to fix this. Maybe all these signs mean I should act. But my friends, listen carefully. Life reminding them of you does not mean life is asking you to rescue them. These triggers, these patterns, these coincidences, they are not assignments for you. They are lessons for them. You might be tempted to jump in, especially if you still care deeply. You'll imagine them hearing that song, passing that place, remembering that moment, and your heart will ache. You'll want to make that ache stop by talking first, breaking the silence, easing their discomfort. But that's an old habit, not a divine instruction. You can't do their emotional homework for them. You tried that already. It cost you your peace. Remember this quote. Sometimes life doesn't bring someone back to you. It brings you back to yourself through the way they lost you. These reminders are as much about you as they are about them. While life is showing them what they lost, it's also showing you what you gave. The depth of your presence, the value of your love, the difference between your energy and everything they tried to replace it with. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to stand tall in. Why does this phase feel so emotionally confusing for you? Because you can sense something is happening behind the scenes, but you can't see it directly. It's like hearing whispers through a wall. You feel the shift, but your mind wants proof. Your pain wants clarity. Your fear wants guarantees. Yet Stoicism teaches you this: not everything unseen must be chased. Some things are simply acknowledged, respected, and released. So what do you do while life is reminding them of you? You let it. You let the song play in their car. You let the memory sit with them at that cafe. You let your name echo when it's mentioned. You don't rush in to relieve the tension. You don't crumble at the idea that they might finally be understanding your value. You let them understand it. Fully, quietly, without your emotional labor cushioning the blow. This is your rise, my friends, because while life is replaying you for them, life is also trying to rewrite you for you. It's gently telling you, you were not crazy. You were not too much. You were not forgettable. Look at how much you still live in their world without even being there. That's not a sign to shrink or wait at the door like a backup option. That's a sign to walk even deeper into your own growth, knowing your presence left a mark no distance could erase. So I want you to own that, not in a bitter way, not in a they'll regret it forever way, but in a steady, grounded way. Go to the comments and write this affirmation: my presence leaves a mark. Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that you're starting to understand your own impact. Because next, we're going to step into the moments where they stop just feeling pulled toward you and actually start testing the waters. Those innocent check-ins that are anything but innocent. Stay with me. Number 5, the harmless check-ins, tests, probes, and psychological feelers. Most people don't come back with honesty first. They come back with a test to see if your heart is still for sale. My friends, this is the chapter nobody warns you about. The moment when their silence doesn't fully break, but it bends just enough to send a small signal. Not an apology, not an "I miss you." Just a tiny knock on the door of your attention dressed up as something casual, harmless, innocent. "Hey, been a while." A random emoji reply. A reaction to a story you posted 2 weeks ago. A song sent without context. On the surface, it's nothing. Underneath, it's everything. Imagine a fisherman casting a line into the water, not because he's starving, but because he wants to see if the pond still has fish. He throws in a hook with a tiny piece of bait, then watches the surface. He's not committing, he's testing. That's exactly what these check-ins are. Emotional fishing. They're not fully ready to step into the deep end with you again, but they want to know if your feelings are still swimming close to the surface. You see that message pop up, and instantly your mind starts firing questions. What do they want? Why now? Do they miss me? Is this a sign things are changing? Are they finally realizing my value? Your heart speeds up a little. Old habits wake up. Memories rush back. You stare at the screen, reading and rereading a 3-word text like it's a secret code from the universe. This is what makes these check-ins so powerful. They look small, but they trigger big emotions. And here's the hard truth. Most of the time, they're not doing it because they've suddenly grown, healed, and are ready to love you better. They're doing it because their ego is uncomfortable. Their pride wants reassurance. They want to know if they still have you without having to admit they ever lost you. As the quote goes, some people don't want you back, they just don't want to feel the weight of actually losing you. So they send that harmless little text. Nothing too vulnerable, nothing too specific, just enough to see if the door they once walked in and out of is still unlocked. If you answer immediately, with warmth, with excitement, with emotional energy, their ego exhales. Good, I still matter, they're still there. They don't have to face the full consequence of their distance yet, because your reaction cushions it. They get proof that the bridge they burned somehow stayed standing. This is where your fear and longing can team up against you. You fear that if you don't respond in the way you used to, you'll lose your chance. You fear that this little check-in is your only window for connection. You fear that if you act too calm, they'll disappear again. And at the same time, a part of you still longs for them to mean it this time. So you start negotiating with yourself. Maybe it's different now. Maybe this is them reaching out for real. Maybe I should show them I'm still open. My friends, breathe. Notice how quickly your mind wants to turn crumbs into a full meal. That's not love speaking. That's old wound programming. They gave so little for so long that your nervous system learned to overvalue any tiny hint of attention. But attention is not the same as intention, and a "Hey stranger" text is not the same as "I've done the work to show up differently." Think of it like someone who crashed your car in the past, then shows up one day asking to borrow your keys just for a short drive, with no explanation, no repair, no accountability. Would you hand the keys over just because they smiled at you from the driveway? You'd hope not. Yet emotionally, that's what we often do. We hand over access to our heart because someone tapped on the window with a soft "hey." Here's the lie we're breaking in this section. Any effort is better than no effort. No, it's not. Half-hearted effort from someone who knows exactly how deeply you feel is not a gift. It's a test, a probe, a way for their ego to see if it still has influence over your peace. And your job is not to reward inconsistency just because you're hungry for connection. Your job is to protect the stability you've worked so hard to build. Now, does this mean you must be cold, harsh, or rude when they check in? No. Stoicism isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about not letting your feelings drive you off a cliff. You are allowed to respond. You are allowed to be kind. But your kindness doesn't have to come with instant emotional availability. You don't have to send paragraphs. You don't have to reopen old doors because they knocked with one vague line. You can meet small with small, calm with calm, neutral with neutral. Because here's what really unsettles the ego, not silence alone, but your self-control. When they send a message expecting the old version of you, the one who would jump, over-explain, confess, chase, and instead they meet a steady, composed, almost unfamiliar energy, it rattles them. It forces them to ask, wait, did something change? Do I still have the same hold? Can I still pull them like before? That discomfort is exactly where their real reflection begins. Your growth shows in how you handle these check-ins. The old you would have seen it as a lifeline. The new you sees it as data, information, a sign that something is shifting on their side, yes, but not a sign that you need to drop everything on yours. You can read that message and think, of course you're back. My energy was always valuable, but this time I'm not handing it over so easily. That attitude isn't arrogance. It's finally seeing your own worth without their validation. So when that harmless message arrives, remember, you're not being tested by fate, you're being tested by their ego. Pass the test by not shrinking back into your old patterns. Pass it by staying grounded in the peace you fought hard for. Pass it by remembering that your heart is not a playground for someone who only shows up when their pride is lonely. I want you to claim this shift publicly and powerfully. Go to the comments and write this affirmation. I don't confuse tests with commitment. Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that you understand what these little check-ins really are. Because next, we're going to step into the most important part, your role in this phase, how a stoic, emotionally disciplined version of you moves when their distance is clearly ending, but their actions still have to prove it. Stay with me. Number 6, your role in this phase, how Stoics behave when the distance is ending. Power isn't proven by how quickly you run back when they return. It's proven by how calmly you stand when they do. My friends, this is the part where a lot of people fumble the ball. Up until now, everything we've talked about has been mostly on their side, their guilt, their ego, their orbit, their triggers, their harmless check-ins. But this chapter, this one is about you. Because when their distance starts to end, when the energy shifts and they slowly move back in your direction, what you do next decides everything. Not just the future of the connection, but the future of your self-respect. Let's be real. You've imagined this moment before, them coming back, them finally realizing, them finally seeing your worth. Maybe you've rehearsed conversations in your head. Maybe you've pictured the notification, the call, the I miss you. So when they finally start giving those small signs, there's a part of you that wants to drop everything and run back emotionally. It's like someone who's been starving being handed a piece of bread. The instinct is to grab, not to question. But here's the truth. This is exactly the moment where you must slow down. Because they are not the only one being tested. You are too. Imagine you're a guard at the gate of a beautiful garden. For years you let anyone walk in. No ticket, no respect, no care for the flowers. They stepped on things, left trash, broke branches, and walked back out whenever they felt like it. Finally, you closed the gate. You started watering your own plants. You cleaned up the damage. You learned what grew best in your soil. Then one day, one of the people who trampled your garden comes back and lightly taps the gate. "Hey, can I come in again?" Most people in your old position would fling the gate open out of excitement. But the stoic you, the new you pause. You ask yourself, have they changed? Or are they just curious? Are they here to grow with me or just to enjoy the view again? This is exactly how you must treat this phase. Gently, calmly, but with standards. Here's the lie you've probably believed in the past. If they're finally coming back, I have to grab this chance or it'll disappear. That's a fear mindset, not a truth. Love is not some limited time sale where if you don't grab the discount now, the store closes forever. If someone is meant to be in your life in a healthy way, they can handle you taking your time. They can handle your boundaries. They can handle you not emotionally jumping at their first knock. Your role right now is not to prove that you're still available. Your role is to prove to yourself that you've changed. That you're no longer the version of you who accepts confusion as connection. Stoic behavior is not about being cold, it's about being clear. You don't punish them. You don't start drama. You simply refuse to abandon the peace you built while they were gone. Practically, what does that look like? It looks like answering slowly instead of instantly. It looks like matching their energy instead of overgiving. It looks like noticing patterns instead of clinging to words. If they send one small text, you don't respond with your whole soul. If they ask how you're doing, you don't turn it into a therapy session where you pour out everything you've held inside. You keep some of your emotional world to yourself, not out of spite, but out of respect. Respect for your journey. Respect for how hard it was to patch yourself back together. And yes, it will feel strange at first. The old you will want to jump in, to explain, to help them understand, to remind them of what you had. But pay attention to that urge. That urge is the same one that kept you stuck in cycles before, the same urge that had you carrying the connection on your back while they coasted. This time, you're not doing that. This time, you're letting them do the emotional heavy lifting if they truly want a place in your life again. Remember this quote: "If they want access to your heart, let their consistency be the password, not your loneliness." That's Stoicism in relationships. It's not, "I don't care." It's, "I care, but I won't let my care destroy my balance again." You can care deeply and still say, "Move slowly." You can still have love in your heart and say, "Prove you're safe this time." You are allowed to enjoy the fact that they are circling back without making it your entire focus. You're allowed to smile when you see their name and still finish what you were doing before you reply. You're allowed to feel the old feelings rise and still choose new actions. That's real growth. Not that you feel nothing, but that feeling something doesn't control you anymore. My friends, this is where you show yourself how far you've come. While their distance is ending, your dependence must not return. You don't shrink your standards just because they finally woke up. Their clarity cannot come at the cost of your relapse. You worked too hard to regulate your emotions, rebuild your confidence, rediscover who you are outside of them. Do not toss that away just because their ego finally got lonely enough to knock. Your calm in this phase is not just for them to see, it's for you to see. It's proof that your healing is real, that you can feel the pull and still choose your peace, that you can be open to possibilities without being blinded by them. That's a whole new level of emotional maturity, the kind most people never reach because they keep reacting instead of responding. So here's what I want you to claim right now. Go to the comments and write this affirmation. I protect my peace first. Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that you understand your role now. You're not here to chase, to beg, or to prove. You're here to observe, to decide, and to honor the person you became in their absence. Because in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens when the testing stops and the truth steps forward, when they finally break the distance with something real, and how you can respond without losing the power you just spent so long building. Stay with me. Number 7. When they finally break the distance, and why your growth matters more than their return. Sometimes the real plot twist isn't that they came back. It's that you're not the same person they left behind. My friends, there comes a moment when all the quiet orbiting, the harmless check-ins, the silent stalking, and the life reminders finally turn into something more direct. The distance they worked so hard to keep begins to collapse. Not in theory, but in reality. One day your phone lights up and it's not just a hey or an emoji, it's a real message. Honest, longer, heavier, the kind that makes your stomach flip for a second because you know, this isn't just casual anymore. This is them finally breaking the distance. But here's what nobody tells you. This moment isn't just about them. It's about you. It's about who you became while they were gone. It's about whether you're going to react like the old version of you or respond like the person you've grown into. Imagine a movie where the main character spends an hour healing, training, rebuilding their life. They learn their lessons, they get stronger, they find their peace. Then, in the last 20 minutes, someone from their past knocks on the door. The audience leans in, waiting to see what the character will do. Will they shrink back into their old wounds, or stand in their new strength? That's exactly the scene you're in when they finally come forward sincerely. You're not just living it. You're the main character. Their message might say things like, "I've been thinking about you," or "I realize I messed up," or "Can we talk?" Maybe there's an apology. Maybe there's vulnerability you never saw before. Maybe they sound small, unsure, human in a way their ego never allowed earlier. And your heart, being the soft and loyal thing it is, will feel that pull. Old memories will knock. Old feelings will rise. The version of you that waited, cried, begged for this kind of honesty will want to grab onto it like oxygen. But pause, breathe, and remember this quote. When the past comes knocking, check who you are at the door before you decide who gets in. Because here's the truth, my friends. Them coming back doesn't automatically mean they're ready. Sometimes it just means they're finally uncomfortable enough to admit they're not as over you as they pretended. The question isn't, are they back? The real question is, are they different? And just as important, are you? This is where your Stoic training shows. You're not a stone, you're not pretending you don't care. You're just not handing someone the same access to your heart without seeing if they've learned anything from losing it. You can answer with warmth without abandoning your boundaries. You can listen without letting their emotions drown yours. You can say, "I hear you," without saying, "I'm exactly where you left me." Think of your heart like a house you've spent months renovating. You fixed the leaks, repainted the walls, threw out the broken furniture, opened the windows for fresh air. Now someone who helped wreck the place once is standing outside with flowers saying, "I'd love to come in again." Stoicism doesn't tell you to slam the door in their face forever, but it definitely doesn't tell you to throw it wide open without checking if they're still carrying mud on their shoes. Ask yourself the hard questions. Are they taking accountability or just expressing regret? Are they talking about feelings or only about missing the comfort you gave them? Are they offering consistency or just craving attention? Do their actions now match the growth you had to fight for in their absence? If the answer is no, then your work is not to fix them, it's to protect you. And here's the beautiful part. By the time they finally break the distance, most of your real transformation has already happened. You're not the person who checks your phone every 2 minutes anymore. You're not the person who needs closure more than you need peace. You're not the person who will swallow your needs just to keep someone from leaving. You've sat in the quiet, faced your pain, built routines, built discipline, rebuilt self-respect. You've learned that your worth is not measured in who chooses you, but in how you choose yourself. So if they return, and they're genuine, and their actions over time begin to align with your standards, you might choose to reconnect. That's your choice. Not from desperation, but from discernment. And if they return, and you realize their energy hasn't really changed, they're just scared, bored, lonely, or ego-bruised, you're allowed to say no. Not in anger, not in drama, just in calm truth. That door is closed for me now. Remember this. The real win was never them reaching out. The real win was you reaching yourself. You met parts of you in the silence that you had been avoiding for years. You found strength you didn't know you had. You discovered that peace is not a gift other people give you. It's a skill you learn to build and protect. Their regret is a side effect. Your rebirth is the main event. So as this chapter of the script closes, I want you to stand fully in that. Not in arrogance, but in quiet, grounded power. You are not the same. And that's the point. Whether they become a new beginning or a lesson you never have to repeat, you've already won something far more valuable, yourself. If this message hit home for you, if you felt your own story woven between these words, I want you to do 2 things. First, claim your transformation in the comments with this affirmation: I choose me now. Write it to show them, show yourself, and show the world around you that the old version of you is gone and a stronger, clearer, calmer you has taken their place. And second, If this spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that their power doesn't start when someone comes back. It starts when they decide who they are, with or without them. Stay with me, my friends. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your next, stronger chapter.